This video will be concerning the Delphi murders. This will concern the search and rescue efforts when they were presumed lost and then when they were presumed incapacitated or dead. This video will mostly fixate on two videos that were presented to me to go look up. The request for my information or comment on this is somewhat confused, so I'm just simply going to treat the two videos as videos I've chosen to review. A couple of details that you need to know. If you're doing a search and rescue in an area that's wooded with a river, here are the many possibilities of where a person could be that are not suspicious circumstances or crime scene kind of things. Especially if it's two people. This is the scary part about two people only going out for a hike. I haven't done a video on this, but it should be done. One falls in the river, the other one goes in after them, and it's an axiom when you're doing rescue for drowning victims. Don't become the next drowning victim, because you'll both drown. They both drown. They get into the water. As they flow down the river, they get caught on a twig or a stick or whatever. Whatever point it's at, the water will try to drag the body down to that same depth. If the river is muddy, you can't see the body. It can be an inch away from you. That happens in pairs, specifically a mind-bending number of times when people go missing when water's involved. If it's flowing in one direction specifically. If there's down tree limbs or whatever. Also, the body can go downriver and be battered by rocks or be impaled on a stick that comes out later and then have that thing. You can have something that looks like someone was beaten up by the devil themselves and murdered, and it was an accident because the person simply fell in the water, alone or in pairs. The going out in pairs doesn't make it more likely. It just makes it more likely that you'll find two of them both underwater, pinned or snagged. A snag will pull underwater. And I've been a victim of all of those partially myself, and also had to go out on a search and rescue. I didn't find anybody, but two people are found that way. And I asked, is this common? I mean, that shouldn't happen. And they're like, it happens a lot more than you think. It's really weird. They know why, but it still doesn't change the fact that it's really shocking. Next thing, a person going missing in the forest without water. Hypothermia sets in overnight and they curl up in a ball on the ground. Instinctively, something still left in our DNA tells us to pull plant life or sticks or anything over the top of us to try to stay warm. We'll also find a hill or a log and crawl under it and basically end up making a shallow grave for ourselves if we're not found. Finding a person who is suffering from hypothermia in an area where there's enough debris that they can cover themselves is absolutely mind-bendingly difficult. Very often they're found months later, right next to where you walked. You can walk past a person alive or dead. I don't even know how many times I walked past a person probably that day for that incident. That can also happen in a desert. It gets cold at night. And they'll find somehow all the plant life in the area and make a pile and you won't know. You're told to look at any pile of brush in a forest or in the desert and pick it up. You will disturb it. And it'll be a coyote most of the time. Or a bear. Let's continue. And yes, it is very obvious, again, that they were searching the river and the ground. And at what point during any of the recordings, and exactly what hour, minute, and second, did they put up police crime tape, do not cross crime scene? Isn't that the moment where they found the bodies? Why would they put out crime scene tape and they weren't found yet? You can look at a helicopter recording of them circling the area incessantly, and people claim they can see crime scene tape. That must mean that's when the bodies are found. First part of the video fixated on a pair of searchers in the water, and then about DNA contamination. The area you're dealing with here is going to cause DNA contamination instantaneously. There is no such thing as clean DNA of crime or non-crime sense. And again, originally they were assuming that the two girls had gotten lost or hurt themselves or had fell victim to hypothermia, or they were just holed up somewhere. And you don't worry about crime scenes or murders or whatever. You worry about find them, whatever condition they're in. If they're salvageable, you salvage them. If they're not, then you go from there. And again, if somebody falls in the river, you're not going to have enough evidence to prove that they were murdered or that they simply got battered by rocks going down the river until a coroner's report. how soon after they were found was it declared a murder or presumed a murder by everybody? Does that imply they weren't found in the water? There seems to be a fixation on the two people in the water looking for them, and seems to be an implication either that the environment or the river itself would contaminate the bodies and or evidence. And again, next thing is that they were found in the water. If they were found in the water, you'd be told they were found in the water, and probably you would be told that they died tragically from drowning, because you probably wouldn't find evidence of anything else unless it was something overt. A knife wound that was extremely specific, a bullet found in the body. Something would have to be crime-only mode. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to tell you where to look this up, but you can look up people who have been found in the forest that showed every sign of being murdered, and they weren't, because, to be blunt, it was the environment they were in. They got punctured and battered by wandering around dazed because of hypothermia, or almost drowning and then drowning again. Next part of the video. So they're searching for the missing kids. They all parked in a clump on a private driveway off of the main road, right above where the area where they were found. Where were they actually found? A bunch of people, I've asked everybody, point me to videos that say they claim that they know exactly where the bodies were found, and they give about a dozen different locations. They don't give specifics, and they're not directly above where the cars were parked. The only video I know of that says anything close to that is me saying that they were found next to a road. And I've been told I've been wrong. I'm not kidding. To this day, I cannot get a straight answer out of the police department where they were specifically found. They're keeping that back because they're still doing an investigation, they say. Instead of parking all along the road, the main road, or all along that driveway, and then did they know where to park? Did they know where it was going to be found? When you look at an area like that, you're going to do a search and rescue. The presumption after a while is that the individuals want to be found and they can't be found. So you look for places and you're going to go to them where they won't be able to be found. You can search the places where they'll be easily found and come running to you next, but you look in the worst possible scenario place first to get it off the list of shit to deal with. And I'd like to point out that as far as the area they were supposed to be in, if you draw a circle around their pathway, that road would that driveway may or may not have been considered the best place to be as a central point to stage their search and rescue activities. Next video. Police scanner recording of a cop asking about a rumor he was given personally or not by someone named John Weaver. Weaver said that they were found in the water. The respondent said it's unconfirmed, or may have been strongly implying, I'm using the word implying, we haven't found them yet, that's not real. Or, we found them but we don't know what happened. Or, they don't have the information. And the person on the radio seems to be very, very specific about saying, well, I heard that they were... I want to point out something here, very important. Some police officers are volunteers, they're not very well trained, or not. You can decide. Your opinion may vary. My opinion has varied over the time about this police force. If you're told explicitly you're wrong about something, or you were told something that wasn't true, and you keep pushing back, I don't want you working as a police officer. Well, I was told by somebody that he said that the body was... Okay, did you track him down and see if he was the one who put him there? Where did he find him? When? How? Well, I don't know. You're fired. Someone comes up to you during a search. Oh, they were found in the river right over there. Walks away. I'm a little suspicious about taking any of that information as valid. Let's move on. Next, and this is an out-of-context statement made by somebody to the press. An off-the-cuff statement. That's the infamous deceptively edited video segment. Now, in this video, I don't believe the person was doing that, but they did use one that was edited that way. The person was obviously being asked, what area is this that you're searching? Deer Creek. And then he says, in Deer Creek. He said it almost like it was a county or something. Or a park called Deer Creek. Or an area called Deer Creek commonly. Look at the signage in the area and see if that's accurate. But does that mean that the bodies, again, were found in the creek? Again, if they were found in the water, the likelihood of being able to determine quickly that it was a murder would be very low unless there was something very, very specific that's only going to happen if it's a murder. But that's out of context, and I don't believe that that's a person saying the bodies were found in the water. Seems to be a theme of doing that here. Next, we get someone fixating on a blurry image taken under the bridge, supposed to be on the same day, that they say shows a cross. And then they're not saying what the fuck they're talking about. This sounds and seems a lot like, and yeah, it's as above, so below. This is an implication. I'm not going to give you evidence. I'm just going to say this. Okay. I can't count how many times I've gone hiking where I've gone up and found some little thing that people left behind as a marker to say I was here, or put up literally a cross, or even a prayer spot. You can look at this. You can look at Google Street Views of parks and find people putting in little crosses for people to pray at. People lose friends. They're off on a walk to try to reflect on life. And hey, I'll leave. Sit here for a minute. Happens all the time. The United States is absolutely lousy with people doing that. People will put up all sorts of things like that. You can find Wicca circles and patterns and all sorts of things and glyphs. I know of a place where someone put a Thor's hammer in honor of somebody who died recently. Doesn't mean anything other than it's a personal tribute. But in this case, it's a picture of something going on under the bridge. Well, how did they get across there? They didn't. This is a couple of pieces of limb intersecting. Well, I ain't buying it. Did somebody go out there and find the cross? Did they make an absolutely unambiguous image of it? Immediately afterwards. Sleuths that don't do field trips. Is there a video recording, just happenstance, from a helicopter showing that? Well, it's missing. Yeah, because it's a happenstance of two limbs that are very, very far apart, forming what looks like a cross. Or not. You decide. Next, a claim that a prosecutor, Robert Ives, said aspects of the crime scene were confusing or something and said non-secular. And there's a heavy implication that this has been covered up because it's been deleted. Or it never happened. I did a video on this. Or it's maybe him or just somebody else saying the word non sequitur, as in something illogical. Now remember, the original statement, and the one that's used in the video, is something along the lines of, he said certain aspects of the crime scene were confusing or didn't make sense. Non secular or non sequitur. By the way, non sequitur actually doesn't just mean illogical, but that's a good interpretation. It's a common usage of the wording. He said non sequitur. Okay, well, what if he said non secular? Non secular? Well, that means religious. It was confusing, didn't make sense, and it was non-secular. It was confusing, didn't make sense, seemed out of place. It was a non sequitur. Which one of these is the most likely answer? And again, your source is something it's been redacted. Again, we don't have the evidence, so because the evidence has been covered up, that's proof of whatever conclusion we come to. Sources cited were supposed to be the full RTV chopper footage. Okay, what part of the chopper footage can you see yellow tape in the area that you think the body was found? 13 minutes and 8 seconds is what you're supposed to go to in the video, according to one of the listings. As above, so below is a YouTube channel. It may or may not have an axe to grind or whatever, but again, a lot of this sounds like people are heavily implying things, or they're genuinely asking questions and it comes off that way. If you do a video, please don't let it come off that way if you can help it. A lot of my videos come off that way too. This is a critique of the work done. Next, if you use a soundbite like Deer Creek, in Deer Creek, give the entire freaking link to that original source, not one that's been processed over and over again. Next thing, if you don't have a completely clear timeline as the exact hour, minute, and second the bodies were found, or at least when they were cordoned off, we don't know that the cars were parked that way specifically because they knew where they were going to find them, or they were assuming where they would find them, or if it even matched. And we don't know if they just moved the cars immediately after they found them. I don't know either. And a lot of this sounds like people making presumptions so they have some hay to bail. Parking on a driveway after a road they could have spread out on instead of the driveway where they can park, be out of the way, and maybe do a better job doing the work because it's more central to the location they're searching. And again, any body found out there would have been contaminated as far as data. Okay, that's it. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that. I hope this is useful to everyone watching, and if it isn't, Downvote.